It's 29 July 2024, and today I'm going to be giving you my update for this Monday. So this is the first update of the week, and this is the most important update as we start our week. And today we've got a very important event, which is the appearance of all the 78 jailed opposition activists who have been jailed in Zimbabwe for 42 days. So they've been sitting in a Zimbabwe jail for 42 days without trial. And they're going to be appearing in court today, starting today all the way up to Friday. We're going to be having Timba, who is the acting CCC president, and all the people that have been jailed for no reason. These people were jailed on the 16th of June. So you can see from the 16th of June to today, it's been more than 42 days sitting in jail. And we need to make sure that this story is told every single day until these guys are released. This is crazy. Mnangagwa is doing something that has never been seen in any other country. And this is all happening at the same time as the SADC Industrialization Week. And it's no surprise that no one has come to Zimbabwe. There's been a massive boycott of the Zimbabwe SADC Industrialization Week. The stands are empty, and it's shocking. Let me show you what has been happening over there at the SADC Industrialization Week. So if you look at these stands, this is what it looks like right now. There is no one there. Even the Zimbabwe stand is empty. The Zimtrade stand is empty. No one is coming to this thing. It's a mess. People feel disappointed, and SADC feels that what Mnangagwa is doing is actually terrible. The arrest of opposition members during the time when SADC is in Zimbabwe is the worst decision that Mnangagwa has ever made. Look at this little group here. This was an attempt yesterday by the ministers of Zimbabwe. So if you look over here, we've got the Minister of Information at the center, who is Jennifer Nuswere. We've got the Minister of Industrialization, of Industry and Commerce over there. And we've got the Zimtrade representative with the pink dress over there. Then the SADC people on the left. So the two SADC people on the left. There is no one who is coming to this thing. There's no one attending the SADC Industrialization Week. It's terrible. Imagine yourself coming to a country where the president of that country has arrested and jailed 78 people without trial. It's impossible. Look at the journalists who were attending the meeting yesterday. There were actually more journalists attending than the people who were presenting or were exhibiting. Zimbabwe is making a big mess. Mnangagwa is making a big mess, and he is going to take down the whole of SADC. So what Mnangagwa is doing right now is going to take down the whole of SADC. The region is going to become less competitive because of Mnangagwa's behavior. And because the guys at the SADC Secretariat don't get it, you are going to continue seeing all this going all the way into SADC Summit. And the only thing that will make them understand is more boycotts. I feel sorry for people who are exhibiting here. The lady from Malawi, she's got a good product, and she was sitting there trying to sell, but there's no one to sell to. And this was the Namibia stand. You can see that these are small people, small businesses coming here trying to push their products. So the SADC Industrialization Week is actually more like a place to sell products, small products, goods, people who are trying to push their products, but it's not an industrialization week. I wanted to see what Botswana has brought. Botswana also brought a stand here. And it's all a small stand. There's nothing happening at the SADC Industrialization Week because Zimbabwe is not competitive. There's no one who is a serious business person who is going to come to Zimbabwe for industrialization. So this is Invest Botswana here. So this is the lady from Invest Botswana. The companies from Botswana have not come. So the Botswana Invest came, but the actual companies didn't show up. Many people are aware that Mnangagwa is arrested and jailed 78 members of the opposition. And he's done this at the same time as the SADC. So SADC should have spoken up to say, release these people that have arrested, release the people that are arrested for no reason. That is what Mnangagwa is doing. And Mnangagwa is known now for arresting people and keeping them in jail. So we need to make sure that this story gets as much prominence as possible. And if you're in Harare, go to court. If you're a family member, go to court. The court is going to be running from today till Friday. And the lawyers, Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights, are involved here. And I think the lead lawyer or advocate here is Agent Zigumbo. These are the people who are leading this process. And if you want to know more about what's happening, go to court, make sure that you understand and know that this is just the beginning. Worse is yet to come. The events that are just about to take place in Zimbabwe right now are some of the worst events that you've ever seen in Zimbabwe. Mnangagwa is going for a third term. He wants to go for an unconstitutional third term. And yesterday, they were in Manicaland. They've taken out people like Joseph Chinotimba. Chinotimba is coming out to campaign for Mnangagwa's third term. So we now have 6 provinces that have said Mnangagwa should go for a third term. So 6 out of 10. We're talking here about Mashonaland East, Manicaland, Masvingo, Midlands, Matabeleland South, and Bulawayo. So we now have all these provinces that have said Mnangagwa should go for an unconstitutional third term. And in October, Mnangagwa is going to get this endorsed, and you see a process. And the process will be either for an amendment to the constitution, or for deharmonization, or for the postponement of the election. And this can easily be done because they've decimated the opposition, and they now have a parliament that they totally control, both the upper house and the lower house. So we have a serious problem that is coming. And we haven't even started talking about the infighting within ZANU-PF. There's going to be massive infighting within ZANU-PF because Mnangagwa is directly challenging the military. The military in Zimbabwe does not want Mnangagwa to go for a third term. And I think I want to repeat this. The military in Zimbabwe has directly told Mnangagwa that they don't want him to break the constitution. And we've been talking about this over a long period of time. The war veterans have come out and they've said they don't want Mnangagwa to go for a third term. So it's a direct challenge. And you're going to see this playing out in public. The purpose why Mnangagwa wants to go for a third term is to continue with the looting. There's massive corruption and looting under Mnangagwa, and this is going to continue. And we're watching our country being brought down while we watch. It's terrible. So anyway, let me go to news, and we've got some interesting regional news. So let me start with regional news, which is in South Africa. So let's get rid of our banner. We start with Dallas. So Dallas is a South African musician. He's called Leslie Jonathan Mape Jr. He was hospitalized on the 26th, which is Friday, after suffering a stroke. So the family says it's a stroke, and he's been in hospital since then. It's not clear why the 39-year-old singer suffered a stroke, but the family said he's in a stable condition. So let's watch what's going to happen with Leslie Jonathan Mape Jr., popularly known as Dallas. He's in hospital right now as we speak after suffering a stroke on Friday, which was also his birthday. Then let's go to Zimbabwe. In Zimbabwe, we've got some sports news, and that is Evans Gwekwerere is in H Metro newspaper. So they have produced a story here about Evans Gwekwerere. Evans Gwekwerere is a former Dynamos player. He has taken Dynamos to international soccer bodies like CAF, demanding payment of outstanding $27,000 US. And he has finally been paid US 17,000. My understanding is that he has been paid US 17,000 after negotiations. And he has used the money to go on holiday with his young wife. So They are currently in South Africa on holiday, and they've been showing off pictures of their holiday in Pretoria. So they've been staying in Pretoria for a month, and it's very interesting. So I'll show you some of the pictures here. That is Evans Gwekwerere here in Pretoria, where he's having a holiday with his new wife, Natasha Kaira Green. Natasha Kaira Green is Evans Gwekwerere's new wife. He paid Lobola around the 16th of July. He's been with her since 2020 after he divorced his ex-wife, and this was publicly in court. He was previously married to Makanyara Mafunga, and this whole thing went to court, which ordered Natasha to pay $1 million for snatching Evans here, who was married to Makanyara. So interesting story. You can check it out in the H Metro newspaper over there. And then I want to look at a very interesting story that has happened in South Africa. It's trending today. And on the screen, I'm going to display this guy. This guy is called Karim. Karim is a Ghanaian, and the South African police are looking for Karim after he swindled two of his South African girlfriends of money. And Karim was in love with these girls from South Africa. I can say women. So that was from January. He was in love with two girls, a 45-year-old and a 35-year-old. The first one was working at the mine, and he told her to leave her job after he was in love with her for a while. And when she left her job, she got a pension money. Then he asked her to give him 170,000 rands so that he can give her back the money after some time. He did not give her back the money, and he in fact disappeared. At the same time, he was in love with a 35-year-old South African woman in the area of Northwest, and he also asked her to give him 60,000 rands, which was all her life savings. She gave him the 60,000 rands, and then, as expected, Karim disappeared with the money. And then the two girls went looking for him at his place of residence and met there, only to find out that they were both in love with Karim, and Karim had disappeared. So the police are looking for him because this is what is called a love scam. It's usually done to middle-aged women who are desperately in search of a man. So a guy will come and say, I'm going to marry you, but you need to help me with this. And the women will go for it, and, and the guy will disappear, obviously, with the money, and never to be seen again. So this is what has happened here in Northwest. It's crazy, and I don't know why women keep falling for such a thing. It's happening so often, so that there's a group in South Africa, like a whole group, dealing with love scams, where women are looking for a man and they end up losing all their money. There is, in fact, a South African police captain in the same area who has lost 3 million rands after falling for the same scam. And the police are also dealing with that. So if you're a woman, you need to find a reputable place to find a guy, like people that you know, not strange guys from Ghana that you've never seen before. So that's crazy. And this is trending today in South Africa. I now want to go to event that is coming. So if you're an athlete, you must be aware that the Soweto Marathon is going to be run on 3 November 2024, and entries are now open. So if you're an athlete from Zimbabwe, you can enter this thing. It's called the SowetoMarathon.com. You go over there and enter, and then make sure that you're here and start practicing, because you need to get time to practice for the Soweto Marathon. Then I want to see if there's anything else that has happened this week. So key events that have happened. Let me take you through key events. Auxillia Mnangagwa is continuing with the campaign. She's campaigning to become the next president of Zimbabwe. If Mnangagwa's plans fail, they want to put either Auxillia or they put the sons. However, the sons are too young. They won't be able to stand the heat. So what Auxillia is doing is she's getting a lot of attention. She's going to different places. And yesterday she was with the women from Belarus and also the first lady of Serbia is still in Zimbabwe, and I think a first lady from another African country is still over there in Zimbabwe. And what she's doing is that she's going and getting donations for things like tablets and other small things like that, and taking them to the raw areas like blankets, and her campaign is moving. So Auxillia Mnangagwa is pushing a campaign to outdo General Chiwenga and Mchangwa. Mchangwa and General Chiwenga are the other two parties, and Opam Chinguri has not started campaigning at all. She's just hanging around, hoping that all the other people drop off, and she ends up as the one who is in the lead. But what we're seeing right now is a clear sign that Zimbabwe is not competitive. Southern African countries or SADC countries are in competition, and Mnangagwa doesn't get it. Mnangagwa thinks if he becomes SADC chairman, the SADC countries will like it and they will just fall behind him. It's not true. What is happening is SADC countries are competing among each other for investors. So if you look at Mozambique, and then you look at Angola, and look at South Africa, those are the biggest economies right now. And you must watch what I just said about Mozambique. Mozambique is getting a lot of investment. The same with Angola. Angola is getting a lot of investment. South Africa is massive. The economy of South Africa is pushing up very, very well. After the recent GNU, South Africa is doing very, very well. So Zimbabwe is surrounded by three massive countries. And then we've got Zambia, which has got a very good leader, President Hakainde Hichilema, doing very, very well. However, you have got these other little countries around us. So when I say little, I don't mean they're little in terms of size. I'm talking about the economies. So I want to look at Botswana. When you look at Botswana, I just showed you that Botswana is more like a supermarket of South Africa. The prices are massive. The residents are struggling. Namibia, same thing. The economy is very small and it's struggling. And then you look at Malawi. Malawi is struggling. And you look at Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is struggling. So you have these small little countries in terms of economy that are all supporting these three massive economies of Angola, Mozambique, and South Africa. What do you think is going to happen? What is going to happen is the three massive economies are just going to try to squeeze as much money as possible from the smaller countries. Then you end up buying from Mozambique, Angola, and you buy from South Africa. Angola is going to become the biggest player in Southern Africa, followed by Mozambique. And eventually, the next people that are going to come into Zimbabwe have to structure our country in such a way that we become a hub. Because of the location of Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe is well positioned to become the center from where everything happens. So the problem with Mnangagwa is he thinks miraculously these things are going to happen. It won't happen miraculously. You need a strategy. And the first thing that Mnangagwa needs to do is to make sure that Zimbabwe becomes a country that attracts tourists. And then you have a lot of flights coming into Zimbabwe. Then people travel from Zimbabwe to other countries. So before someone moves to Mozambique, they must first come to Zimbabwe. Before someone moves to Angola, they must first come to Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is centrally positioned, but you need peace. You need to have a value proposition. At the moment, Zimbabwe has got no value. There's no value into going to Zimbabwe. You can't transact your tourism destinations. They've got no value. You can't move there correctly. You can't swipe when in the country. Food is expensive. Your accommodation is poor. And look at how many tourism destinations we've got that are not being used. Everything is centered around Victoria Falls. And people can't go inland because the infrastructure is collapsed. And when we tell Mnangagwa Kuti, have a culture of dialogue and have a culture of peace, not repression. This is what we mean. And Mnangagwa will soon understand Kuti, his reputation and legacy is going to be a legacy of failure and inability to grow the economy. Things are going to just crash around Mnangagwa no matter what he does. This is how it is until this is sorted. Mnangagwa has to address the political situation in the country. And the only way to address it is for Mnangagwa to go for dialogue leading to a transitional system and fresh elections. There's no credibility in what Mnangagwa has done in the past election, and that is where it is. And I want to just conclude by asking everyone to focus on the guys that are in jail. We need these guys out. Right now, all my focus is on those guys. I'm going to be in Zimbabwe in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So that is the 17th. I'm going to be in Zimbabwe. I'll probably stay there for a week, and we'll make sure that these guys are fine. We don't want this thing to continue where people just get jailed and they are thrown in jail. We've seen it with Scala. Now we're seeing it with the 78. We've got the people who were arrested for changing money. They're still in jail. And we've got the people that were arrested for touting. Over 600 of them, they're still in jail. We've got over 1,000 people in jail right now in Zimbabwe. Guys, this is not the way to run a country. Mnangagwa is doing something that has never been done in another country. And this must be brought to light. So we mustn't hide the fact that Mnangagwa is arresting people and throwing them in jail and keeping them there for no reason, without trial. And when I say without trial, I'm talking about the money changers. People were changing $10 to go home. They are still stuck in jail without trial. And similarly, the same goes for the touts. They've been arrested and kept in jail. Mnangagwa must release those people that is arrested. Now, I want to go and look at the comments. It's almost my gym time now. Today, I'm going to be remote with my trainer, my personal trainer, who train remotely. I want to start with Ngapinde hake mkomana. Mkoma paridzirayo berinofa. Mkomana upi? That is the question that you need to ask yourself. Kuti mkomana anopinda ndeupi? Vakomana vakawanda. Which boy should go into power? Topinza ere general. Because general ndo vane nyanga, vari panyanga ndo vari kupinda iko zvino. General Chiwenga is very interesting because, so let me just speak a bit about General Chiwenga. General Chiwenga is next in line in ZANU-PF. And there is no one that can openly challenge Chiwenga in ZANU-PF. The only person that can fail to get into power, or the only thing that can happen, is if Chiwenga fails to have a strategy. And I explained before what the strategy is. Chiwenga must have a team, first of all, must have a clear strategy, and he must declare that he wants to become the next president of Zimbabwe. He mustn't sit back, because if you are going to become president in the next 3 years, which is going to happen, remember, ZANU-PF is going to go for their Congress in 2027. So Chiwenga must already start his campaign now, and he must declare that he's going to be president. Then all the other guys must drop their campaigns and fall behind Chiwenga. That is how it's going to work. However, he first of all has to get rid of Auxillia, because Auxillia wants to be president. And Mnangagwa, he must make sure that he obviously offers Mnangagwa something, because what Mnangagwa is doing is trying to get a high position. So Chiwenga probably needs to offer Mnangagwa something, maybe a vice president or something like that, in that structure. And he also needs to deal with the various factors or factions. So the unions, the women's league, so the leagues, women's league, youth league, they are all trying to fill him. What is it Chiwenga going to give us? So he needs to make himself the center, or the second center of power after Mnangagwa. And that's not going to be easy, because Mnangagwa is going to obviously try to push him out. So this is all Chiwenga's game right now. If Chiwenga does not create a team, does not manage to create alliances, and does not openly declare his intentions, you end up losing this thing to probably someone like Auxillia, who's already done it. Auxillia is positioning himself to become a president. And Chiwenga must then have an alliance with the opposition. So Mnangagwa has decimated the opposition. However, that strategy has not worked. He's got no legitimacy. You can see that no one believes that Mnangagwa is the president of Zimbabwe right now. All the SADC countries have boycotted SADC. No one is coming to this SADC summit. Even Mahosi is not there. He's not arrived. This means Kuti, no one takes Mnangagwa seriously. And Chiwenga's job would be to take Zimbabwe into a place where it's accepted. And Zimbabwe is very easy to fix. First, you just fix the currency, you open up the economy, and you make the economy work normally. You will see Zimbabwe is going to become one of the best countries because Zimbabweans themselves are the investors. So people who are investing in Zimbabwe, if you give them an opportunity, Zimbabwe is going to do very, very well. Whoever takes over from Mnangagwa is going to have a country that performs so well, and you'll be shocked. So let me tell you why I'm saying Kuti Zimbabwe will do so well. When I fly into Botswana, there is like 1 or 2 planes that comes in after every 3 or 4 hours, and it's one airline. In Zimbabwe, every airline is scrambling to go in there. The only problem is once they get into Zimbabwe, there is nothing to do. Things don't work, so they don't come back. But when you take Zimbabwe and you compare Zimbabwe to any of the other countries around us, the holiday value of traveling to Zimbabwe, landing in Harare, then you drive to Nyanga, then you drive to Great Zimbabwe, then you drive to Kariba, then you drive to Victoria Falls. The value is massive. You've got everything in one place. If you're going to go to Zambia, for example, you're going to struggle to find where to go in one day. Everything is going to be so far apart. Similarly, if you go to Botswana, you have to travel 400 kilometers to go to the nearest holiday destination. South Africa is even worse. It will take you 2-3 days to go to KZN, Mpumalanga, and then you go to the Western Cape. So Zimbabwe is massive. It's got massive value for a tourist. It's modern, and the flight to Zimbabwe is the cheapest flight in the region. So if you're flying from South Africa to Zimbabwe, it's cheaper than anywhere else. The flight to Gaborone is 30 minutes. So from the moment you take off from Johannesburg to Gaborone, it's 30 minutes. But once you get there, it's not the same as being in Zimbabwe. So all I'm saying here that the underlying value of Zimbabwe in terms of tourism, manufacturing, everything is massive. The problem is we have right now is political. We've got lack of political will. And it starts with the way Mnangagwa has been behaving. Mnangagwa wants to become a dictator or a super leader. That doesn't work. You need a culture of dialogue and a culture of peace. And that is lacking. You can't say you've got peace when you arrest 78 people and you throw them in jail. And you keep them there without trial for 40 days. Those are the things that Mnangagwa needs to fix. And I believe that Mnangagwa can fix it. So we need a new leader who's going to come and do this. And Chiwenga is the guy who is in line to do it from a ZANU-PF perspective. And our country needs a transitional period, which will take us, as I said, to around 2035 to 2040. And then we have fresh elections. So very easy to fix our country. And the good thing is everyone is engaged. Zimbabweans love their country. And only the political leaders are damaging us. Let's go to Nkoma 6. He said he's going to rest, so I fail to understand why you say he wants to run for third term. Nkoma 6, yesterday, this is what I'm showing you here. Already, Manicaland and 5 other provinces, they've said they want Mnangagwa to go for a third term. Mnangagwa is the one driving this. He needs to shut this down, but he won't. And as I said, ZANU-PF needs a new leader. They don't need this third term thing. They don't need this thing of saying Mnangagwa must complete his projects. Mnangagwa is not completing anything. All his projects are not finished. And just look at this road. 5 years in the making, this road. It's not been fixed. And you can go to many other places, things are not fixed. That is the problem with Mnangagwa. And he still wants to stick around. I don't want to keep going. I think I've gone for 30 minutes now. Let's look at the sport. So before I go, this is what happened this weekend. This is from ZBC. So you can see Kuti Yada is doing very well. Dynamos is not doing well. I can say the other top teams are doing well, except for the big teams, Islanders and Dynamos. They're not doing well. Let me show you the league, what it's looking like now. So this is the Zimbabwe League right now, as it stands. And at the top, you still have FC Platinum, 21 for 42. So an average of 2 goals per match. And then at the very bottom, you've got Wange, which is 21 games with 16 points. And then at the top, when we top of the top half, you've got Yada there. Yada have done very, very well since Kamabila came. They've climbed up to 21 for 26. Very, very well. They've done so well, and Yada is going to probably surprise people. If they continue with this, what they're doing here, they're going to do very, very well. Bigita Mirror, as you can see, is not doing well anymore, but we have a big crowd at 27 points. So between 27 and 23, all these teams are in the same area. So what Dynamos needs to do is probably to win 2 or 3 more games. But if Yada wins the next few games, they're going to be up there at the top. So you are starting to see a move here, an amazing move in the Soccer League of Zimbabwe. So that's the PSL, and I'm going to put it for you on Gambakwe. It's also available on Herald, and I haven't seen the H Metro of today. Let's see if they publish later on. In fact, I don't want to keep delaying here. Let's see if H Metro has published anything, because if H Metro publishes, there's obviously some interesting stories there, and let's see if they have anything of interest. But what I was saying was, the Soccer League of Zimbabwe doing very, very well, something to follow over there. And the Olympics, obviously, you also need to follow the Olympics. Any more comments? Any more comments? Morning, Mr. Gambakwe. So tell me, there is no election 2028. Yes, that is what Mnangagwa is trying to do. Mnangagwa is trying to postpone the 2028 elections to 2030, or to deharmonize the elections. That will make it a fresh election. Then where is Dr. Clarence Mteneri? Okay, I don't understand Goma George. And then ZANU-PF system is a problem, not Mnangagwa alone. ZANU-PF must go. It's not possible, Mkoma Peter. ZANU-PF cannot go. So you must understand how. ZANU-PF is the military, is the police, is the prison service, is the government. So when you talk of government, they're talking of currently every government sector is dominated by ZANU-PF. That's why I'm saying we need a transitional period. And you're right, in a way you're right, that ZANU-PF must go. But a transitional period is where you're fixing the system. At the moment, everything's broken. If you go to the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe and ask the guy, what policy have you implemented? He cannot say, because it's the decisions are made somewhere else. If you go to the Attorney General, the decision is made somewhere else. The prosecuting authority, decision is made somewhere else. ZAC, decision is made somewhere else. And similarly for ZEC, Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, decisions are made everywhere else. What we need is a new way of thinking in the whole country, which means you need young guys to take over, but the period of taking over, for it to be less disruptive, you need to have a transitional system where technocrats take over and the politicians sit back. At the moment, too much politics in everything. And when you talk of too much politics, you look at Sengizo Chabangu. What has Sengizo Chabangu done when he took over? Nothing, because he's falling into the same system that created him. So we need a new system, but you need a strong leader. At the moment, we don't have a strong leader. Mnangagwa just accepts any explanation. And that's why he's not finishing his projects. If Mnangagwa was strong, all these guys who are not finishing projects were going to finish. But now they just take the money and they run. So Mnangagwa's actual position as president is anyone just goes there and massages him, and then he's happy, but he doesn't achieve anything. What you need is a leader that is very focused on delivery during the time of a transitional system. And that is where Chiwenga is going to play an important part. But we also need the opposition in there. And those are the alliances I'm talking about. You need a power sharing setup. And that power sharing setup must not be political. So you must have people in the power sharing government But the people who should actually run the system should not be the government. It should be the transitional system. So you need a strong business people. At the moment, we don't have strong business people. All our business people have been chased. So any millionaire from Zimbabwe has been told to leave, or they've been forced to leave. And I think in Komatanga Tongai, we can go a lot into Zimbabwe is Kenya. We can look at at Kenya at the moment, but Zimbabweans are cowards. Well, not in the sense of cowards. There are obviously men in Zimbabwe who can do things, but to go on the street, it don't happen. It's very difficult. They will be killed. That is the simple fact. If you go on the street today, you'll be killed. And people know, they don't have a doubt about that, but they'll be killed. Hence, our country is not going to move. You are frozen. So our country is frozen in one spot. Understand the problem. The problem we have is political. And until you solve the political problem and the system problem, nothing is ever going to happen. Eventually it will happen. But have you ever seen those countries where the locals own nothing? That is where Zimbabwe is going, where eventually the local people won't own the system, because someone outside is going to come and own the system, because the locals have failed to own the system. And this is clear. Zimbabwe is not a place to do business. Zimbabwe is not a place where someone can say, I'm making my life plans. Even a Zimbabwean who's based overseas right now cannot say, I'm planning my life on Zimbabwe, because nothing is clear. It's just random. Like Mnangagwa can wake up one day and say, I've made this decision. That's not a system, and that's not sustainable. We need something sustainable. We need something continuous, and Zimbabwe can do very, very well and very, very quickly. Right, Mkoma Tawanda is saying Tafane Namo. Yes, Mnangagwa Arkurava Nenzara, and Mnangagwa is destroying our country. We need a new leader in Zimbabwe. That is a fact, and we need to do it as quickly as possible. So, guys, I would like to thank you. You saw yesterday I didn't do a live. So what I'm doing is I try not to do too many lives in the evenings. I want to give the other guys a chance. So if you see that I'm not live, go and check Dr. Clarence, go and check Rumbi, go and check Mpana Pisam Soro, and then you can also check other young guys who have come from Gambakwe. Gambakwe is responsible for over 90% of the YouTubers in Zimbabwe. They have somehow come either from ourselves here, or they've been mentored by people that were mentored by Gambakwe. Over 14 years of bringing you guys news here in Zimbabwe. What we need to do now is to change our country. We need a fresh new country where you got opportunity, and it's going to work, it's going to happen. And as I said, I'll be in Zimbabwe on the 17th. Let's move to a new level of peace and a new level of dialogue. And Mnangagwa, apana dialogue, yanoita ndisipo Mnangagwa. Anaita nani dialogue. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching.